Hello, welcome. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about requirement gathering and analysis, and we have completed this step. Now, in this lecture, we will discuss about planning and design of performance test. In the planning and design place, we create a performance test plan outlining the scope, objective, testing approach, and environment setup details. Define the performance test scenario, workload models based on the user behavior. Performance test plan contains summary, application architecture, performance test requirements, performance test planning, performance test execution details, and you can refer the performance test plan template for the details. I will be uploading this performance test plan template for your reference. This one I have created by giving some details which are for understanding purpose only. These details can change based on your application. Summary is the purpose of conducting the performance testing on your application. And here you provide the background, objective and scope. And you provide some details of here you provide objectives of your performance testing in detail. For example, you want to evaluate a response time, access scalability, access the scalability, validate the concurrent user handling, stress testing, and objectives can depend on your requirement and the application under test. And scope, you can mention what is the in scope, what are your testing in your application, what are the testing scope of your performance testing, what are the parameters that you are measuring, those details you can mention. And what is out of scope means, for example, testing the backend systems, payment gateways, or security testing, localization and internationalization testing. Few of the things that you are not testing, that one you will mention under out of scope. Similarly, browser compatibility testing, right, these are all not in your scope. Here we'll application architecture, this one you can get from the functional requirement document or a business requirement document which will be prepared by business analyst in your organization, right? Those things you can mention here, and you can also place the diagram of architecture diagram here, right? Here you can put the architecture diagram and detailed information of each of the components in your application. For example, application contains multiple components or modules, those details you can specify here. And performance test requirements you can specify here, why we want to do this performance testing, those details you can mention here. User experience assurance, scalability testing, risk mitigation, optimization of opportunities, compliance and SLA adherence. These are some of the reasons for doing a performance testing. And here is the non-functional requirements, NFR, right? For example, each modules in the application, right, these are the business transactions. For example, if you open this application here, uh, these are the products you can order: fish, dogs, cat, reptile, birds, right? So fish, dog, cat, reptile, birds. Also there is an option for login, sign in and sign out, right? So for each transaction, what is the expected user load, and what is the response time, and what is the number of transactions per hour, right? Those details, business non-functional requirements you can mention here, right, in detail. This NFR matrix, it means which non-functional requirement is covered by which test script. For example, non-functional NFT means non-functional test script 1. Here tick mark means non-functional requirement 1 is covered by non-functional test script 1. Like that, we provide this matrix: non-functional requirement versus non-functional test script, right? Performance test planning, right? Here what types of performance testing you are doing and what is the details. For example, load test you are doing with 100 concurrent users. Pass fail criteria is response time should be less than 2 seconds, error rate should be less than 1%, duration, ramp up time 5 minutes, steady state 1 hour, ramp down time 5 minutes. Similarly, for each of these testing, you specify the various criteria as well as timing, right, as well as user load, right? So similarly, what are the tools that you are using for monitoring as well as generating the user load, right? We are using the Apache jmeter here, and you can also mention the protocol that you are using is HTTP, HTTP, or here it should be HTTP, yes. And this is a protocol you are using, right? Whether it's licensed or open source, number of licenses required, paid tool, then you can mention that as well. Performance test script, you can specify performance test script details here. What are the steps you are recording, right? These one things we will discuss in detail when we are doing a test script recording later, right? What are the steps? For example, here product ordering, we are ordering this order fish, right? What are the steps for doing ordering this? These steps we will be recording in while creating the performance test script. Those things we can record here so that it will be easy for us to record later, right? Test script 2, test script 3, like this we have recorded steps for each of the performance test script. We have recorded the steps for creating a script for each business process here, right? So, and performance test runtime settings also you have specified here, right? Pacing between the iteration, think time between the transactions, right? For script 1 to script 8, what are the scripts that we have created? You can mention here what is the runtime setting, what is the pacing means time between the iteration, think time is time between the transactions. And here data planning, performance test data planning, how we are creating the test data and what are the test data required, those details we can mention here. And here data preparation, what are the approach that you are following for data preparation, that you can mention here. Performance test execution means how many cycles of performance test you are running. Cycle 1, in the cycle 1 you are running 1 2 3 4 5 6 times, right? And each run might be for a different duration or a different user load as well. It depends on the requirement, right? How many times you are running and what are the user load for each run, right? Those things you can mention here. For example, here cycle 1 we are running a load test for 1 hour with a peak load, and in cycle 2, sorry, in a cycle 1 run 2 we are repeating the same load test because we need at least 2 runs with a similar load and similar details. We need to run at least 2 times with a similar load to understand and compare whether there is any significant variation in the test uh, performance parameters, right? So in this way you can plan your test run. And here smoke test is to it, initially we will do the smoke test here because in smoke test we want to validate the performance test script. If there is any issue, not proceed with the performance test. In smoke test we will run with minimum like 1 to 10 users only. If there is any issue for one user itself, then there is no point in running for 100 users or 1000 users, right? We need to resolve that issue, then only we will continue with the performance testing. Purpose of the smoke test is to identify any issues in the performance script or in the application itself. Any functional issues also it will identify. And here load test details we are specifying here. How many cycles we are running this load test? Cycle 1 run 1, cycle 1 run 2, and in cycle 2 also we are running 2 times here, right? Duration of the run, steady state, ramp down time, ramp up time, right? Number of tests is 4 here, 1 2 3 4 that we have mentioned. What are the, this test is covering what are the non-functional requirements, right? Entry criteria, code should be stable and functionally verified, test environment should be stable and ready to use, test data should be available, all NFR should be agreed with the project, test script should be ready to use, right? Exit criteria, all NFR must be met, error rate and transaction must not be more than 1% of total transaction count, CPU utilization must not be more than 70%. So these are some of the example exit criteria. Similarly for a stress test also we mention all the details. Similarly for soak test or endurance test also, it can be called as longevity test. It is run for long duration, like up to continuously for 24 hours, maybe 2-3 days as well. It depends on your application and your requirements, right? Performance test monitoring matrix, collect the matrix here, table below describes the example various performance metrics that can be captured. What are the parameters that you are capturing during your testing? Those details we have mentioned here. For example, response time, transaction throughput, concurrency or load capacity, error rate, server resource utilization, network latency, right? These are the things. And here, what are the server side parameters? Those, that one values we are measuring. Here we mentioned server side parameters that we are going to measure. Performance test environment details we are mentioning here, right? Test environment details here, production environment details. We should compare these two environment and make sure that they are having a resources. We should try to achieve performance test environment and production environment are having a similar or a same kind of resources. If not, then if they are not having, then we need to adjust our performance testing load or result. We need to factor in those things while interpreting our results later. Those things we have discussed in later in the course, how to interpret the performance test result or extrapolate. We need to extrapolate the result based if there is any difference in the resources of a production environment and a test environment. We specify any assumptions, risks, constraint, dependencies in this section, and these are the common sections you will find in most of the documents. Here milestones, you can specify what are your testing milestones. Project plan submitted, project, right, preliminary project, test planning, environment planning, right. These are for example and understanding purpose. You can adjust this document based on your organization and a project, right? So that's it. So this is the organization details, like what are the team members who are responsible for conducting this, right? And this is for acronyms. So that's it. So this is how you create a performance test plan. It should contain all the details and it should be clear. It should be signed off by all the stakeholders as well. Thank you for watching.